Jamba Jumden and the Shen Wanda Jumaya. Zob Sanjay Bana Shazun. The Varesha Banjin and Jamba Jonde. Kaloja Vala Name Vala Dame and Jetan. Sanjay Jumden and Penjava Shajad. Chazano Chuda Jazo Java Demba. Jumden and the Shen Wanda Jumba Yana. Zobe Sanjay Rivana Shazun. The Varesha Banjin and Jamba Juvon de Kaloja. Lana Meva Lana Menanje Demba Sanje Jumde. Pejawa Jatuba La Chazen or Shuda Jazu. Demba Jumden and the Shisha Vandajumba Yanda Bonzo. Rivana Jazun Demba Devarisha Vanjidenja. Given Divya Kano Jiva Lana Meva Lana Menanje. Sanje Jumden and Pejawa Shajatuba La Chazen. Shuda Jazu Jia Kanze Kanjan Zowa Jatu. Sajen den na komban den brne manen je den den na chojo. Dese keba jo la cha zen lo nam da gong ma cho do. Yi je ja zo se je lun bo da ta ban je den sum na. Gong bo cho ni jo la cha zen lo chen jo den ma ti men. Sen do da wa jo la cha zen lo de je chen da zen ma. Nya me chen chen jo la cha zen lo gong bo tu je je. Tam je chen be den ba bo so na me yon den ja. Given as one letter, Jido, the Numachogu, Shinjujo, Macha, Zeno, Trene, Lava Tama, Rabu, Ne, Shingatamba, Gindula, Yacha, Zeno, the Wachian, give up his own so much, Rangi Sinde, Tene Sanje, the Maya, Kamara Rima, you must have a sugar down, Melon Lota, the Jejanum, the Terata, Sonum Dia, Tamjes. Kobantom ne Jinjin Radu then Gada Nada Shiva Lak Shiva Solen one Joveration. The blessed one, the fourth destroyer, completely perfect, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata no other, supreme guide beings to the change, teacher of gods and humans, to you the complete and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shattered plan. I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, no other word, supreme guide of beings to be attained, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, no other word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides that said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With the pure body's form, supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 words, we know the past, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 words are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merited qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the law of realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy faith qualified with realization, who are devoted to the law of precepts, to you the sublime community and virtues I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions,
perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits, the essential beings attain miracle of seeing, subdue the form force, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jono Zoje Jono no Chanju Pado Dane Jazu Davi Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Sanje Jono Zoje Jono no Chanju Pado Dane Davi Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Sanje Jono Zoje Jono no Chanju Pado Dane Davi Jazo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Sanje Jono Zoje Jono no Chanju Pado Dane Dagin Jeso Jebe Sonam Jindola Page, Sanjin Dubu Show.
We go for refuge and find enlightenment to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving in the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. We go for refuge and find enlightenment to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving in the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving in the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Ribadan Shazun Demon Devarisha Manjiden Jimajibun Dubakano Sanje Jimden de Zon, Dishinjabadin, Sonam Dagi Judam, Gavetawa Namachumis, Severa do Jamba Sonam Jeteranam Jishi, Pesha Sampunam Jitaba, Sanam Jemedoji, Chanan Jemedo Jamba Jiyaramba, Tonam Jimba, Tebe Meban, Number Sheriff Sikim. Tonala Zivan Mebasim Jetam Jetam by Chanjus and Banam Jaya Pabekazana Jaya Yangan, Tebe is about the Meva, Baba Samji Major, so number of Yanyu, Gujata, Kutumba Mevan, Devata, Mako, Suda Venue, Mako, Sumeva, Dungana number to Pumba, and number to Kamanda Mitim, Jason, Namanda, Duvana, Shindu, Yodu, Number two was Sival Juvacho, Nagim, Yodu, and Devata Majumba, Sanjay Jim Dendi, Yishina, Neva, Yangana, Deva, Yanda, one Yatamanda. Simja Tamjala, Siva Sama Shuba, the end on the Sanjay Jim Dendi, Kuchi Yandava Namazo, Tabishan, the Tomar gave a part of Tomar gave a hands of the singers and Bombarded. Yozova, Yozotava, Yozu Chawa, Yanta, Demba, Tushaba, Tituan, the two. Kevan and Jesozor and Yajiba, Jim Dendi, the was the Chun, the one and the water, and Yavajo and Zovach. Midima mentioned the water, Demba, Temba, Yuvajo, Tewachimberg, never Shuba, Trabashu. Tubashuba, Temajabe, Vezo, Chajabe, Vezo, Sonam de Pejing. Yenzo Johnson, but Jibenazo, Jubo, Jibenazo, Juba, Chembo. Kangia to Zenyazo, Natawa, Japan, Vegetation, Quadam de la Chaze. Yeah, I think I have to go back to the 8 significant point in the Prasangika school. So it says that here the Chandrakirti state that for the standpoint with no intrinsic existence, not only is there the merit of casting eternalist, nihilist views far away, there is also the merit of complete tenability of connecting karma and its effect without having to resort notions like conditions, consciousness, and so on. So this was in the Yeah, this was a kind of the explicitly mentioned in the sutra, or like 命嘎西嘛，能对叫民族 Yeah, I think that's with us in the sutra. This is kind of like the five aggregates, which is five aggregates which are disintegrating, not going to be born even in the hell realms. So which means it's not going to be reappear in any state or any time. Whatever is disintegrating, right? Disintegrating. Whatever things that is past, not going to reappear in any time. And then the future, the aggregates, the future is not going to be born by itself. So, and there's what is, whatever is disintegrating right now, it will connect to the next, how's that? What do you call it? Next event or next the future aggregates which is right now disintegrating will meet or connect to the next five aggregates. So whatever thing has passed, the very thing that is already passed is not going to reappear. That very the aggregates in the present time, which is in the process of disintegrating, will connect to the next. I think I've said that use this like today is Saturdays, so the very Saturday which is disintegrating, this will connect to the Sunday. The Saturday is which has already passed is not going to reappear. The Sunday as a future is not coming by itself. So this was very much, I think, relevant in the Prasankhya school. So what this, I think like the opposite side of this is non-Buddhist school who believes in Atma. Why they believes in Atma? Why they kind of think is it Atma has to be permanent? Because everything right now is disintegrating, going to be past, so there is no future. That, right now the body, the feeling, the perceptions, once the person is die and all become non-existence. Now there is no such thing from the aggregates to go to the next life. Therefore, they need the Atma to be permanent. So Atma can go to the next life, and Atma will face the consequences of the positive karma or the negative karma, whatever you have committed in the past. Because other than Atma, it's not reliable, right? And similarly, in the minority school, in the Sotantaka school, the Vivashika school, they're all things that anything that the present is disintegrating, once it's completely disintegrate and cease to exist, is become the non-existence. It is the non-existing because the future and the past is non-existent. Present is the only thing that exists. So therefore, they have to come up with new idea. The minority school thinks that, the mind basis of all this will continue to go to the next life. So mind basis of all, or the foundation of the consciousness. Here the translator used the English translation, the foundation of the consciousness. So many translators, they use the mind basis of all, kunjishi, So they think, so this is more reliable, and all of the body, the feeling, the perception will cease to exist. Once it becomes to cease to exist, become non-existence. So only the mind basis, all, or the foundation of the consciousness will continue connect to the next life. So when in the sutra, Buddha says, what is right now disintegrating is connecting to the future. So you don't need Atma to connect to the futures. You don't need the mind basis all, which is something, the eighth consciousness, other than the five aggregates. So that continues the next life in connecting to the next aggregates. So, so I think here it says, from the tradition of the interpreting the treatises of the Noble Nagarjuna comes these unique interpretations, whereby one can still possess all the effect, transactions of the world, even though not even that has a tiniest particle of the intrinsic reality exist. So even there is no any basis that can carry and connect to the futures. If there's no tiniest particles, intrinsic realities exist. Based on this approach, many perfect tenets emerge, right? That are unique compared to the other commentators. What are these tenets? I think here you use the tenets. Anyway, for now here are the principal ones. Number one, rejecting foundation consciousness that is the separate from the sixfold class of the consciousness. That's number one, no foundation consciousness. Without that, they can, without the foundation of consciousness, the present, which is disintegrating, will connect to the next life. And number two, a unique method of refuting reflexive awareness of the self-cognition. So number two, the Prasangika school rejecting reflexive awareness or the self-cognitions. So that again, I mentioned that to remember something, everything that you remember, it is not necessary, particular the perceptions of that thing, what you're remembering, has to precede. It's not necessarily precede the, whatever the particular you're remembering, has to have perceptions in the prior time. Number three, the rejecting the use of the autonomous syllogism to engender of the view of the suchness in others. Thus, so then subject, predicate, the reasons, which is used to the established, so
the view is intrinsic subject. autonomous syllogism.
Yeah, so the Prasangic school reject autonomous syllogism. So they're not rejecting the syllogisms, autonomous syllogism is rejecting. So autonomous means, you can say the subject, predicate, the reasons, three, criteria in order for constitutes, something as impermanent or empty of inherent existence. So Prasangic school says the subject, predicate are all absence of intrinsic existence. So there is no autonomous syllogism to
Mayor is asking what is syllogism.
Syllogism is something. Syllogism is it's a kind of chain of reasoning. Like, for example, it says this body, this body is impermanent because this body is born from the cosmic condition. So the syllogisms, reasonings, because it is born from the cosmic condition, therefore it must be impermanent. And then like a tree, a flower, a weathers, like tree, the flowers, the weathers, anything that born from the cosmic conditions, disintegrates, and they eventually they cease to exist. This body too is born from the cosmic condition, therefore it is impermanent. So syllogism has subject, predicate, and reasonings. Subject, when I use this body as a subject, the predicate as impermanent, reason is born from the cosmic condition. So because of the, you're born from cosmic condition, there must be impermanent, like flowers, weathers, trees. This body too is born from cosmic condition, therefore it is impermanent. So that is called syllogism. And then another reasonings, set of reasonings is called consequentialist reasoning. So consequentialist reasonings, this body, in consequences, this body must not be a product because it is permanent. So, anything that is a permanent must not be product, right? So this shows the subject for the individual. I already know this body has born. So I don't agree this body is not a product. But the opponent, trying to, show me a contradictions, saying that this body must not be a product. And also in my mind, I think I am permanent, right? So I use that you think you are permanent, so therefore your body, must not be a product. So then I see the contradictions. I know this body has born, right? But I still believe I am permanent. If I am permanent, my body has to be non-product. So, some of the ancient Indian, the Hindu, they think because of they are attracted to the sound of Om, they think this Om is the nature of Shiva. Om is
permanent. The sound of Om is permanent. So they think now, because of they're so attracted to the sound of Om, they want to believe the sound of Om is permanent. And then the reason they use to, to constitute the sound is permanent, because the sound is, is a nature of the space. It just remains in the space. It arises from the space. So therefore, the space is permanent. The sound is, is a permanent. So for them, we use this, your sound of Om, the sound of Om that you make that sound must not be a product, because it is the permanent. Right? So every time you say Om, that sound must not be a product, because that is the permanent, as you believe. Anything that is permanent has no cosmic condition. So these are called consequentialist reasoning. And also, sometimes this is, the person must not be, dependent arising, because it is independent and intrinsic. So anything that is intrinsic, independent, must not be dependent arising, right? So the person in the consequences must not be dependent arising, because it is intrinsic and independent. Anything intrinsic, independent, has no quality of dependent arising. So that is showing the contradictions. In this way, sometimes is more powerful than the syllogism.
Krishna, may I ask you a question about the second one? A unique, this is being rejected, right? A unique method of refuting reflexive awareness or self-cognition. The difficulty I'm having with that is like when we're going to meditate, we say, for example, I'm going to watch my thoughts, or I'm going to watch my breathing. You can't really disassociate from that relative idea of the self. And then, of course, to the extent you're watching your breathing or your thoughts, there's an awareness, but it's like a stream. You don't get embedded or stuck. You're watching the stream of whatever arises, even if it includes a momentary idea of self. It's a moving stream.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, in some kind of way, a reflexive awareness. That is, the moment you're observing something, there's an object of your meditation. Even if it's a stream, there's an object, but there is a point as you're watching it, you lose awareness of the separate self. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, in some way, it is reflexive, and it's not like you're getting embedded in a fixed idea of self, but you almost have to have the thought, now I am watching my breathing, or I am watching my thoughts. There's no way to get away from that. And that does seem very reflexive in a way. You have to begin this kind of reflexive aspect. Could you comment on?
So here the unique method of refuting the reflexive awareness. Another word they use, self-cognition. So this was not talking about there's the reflexive, awareness with respect to the thought, breathing, the stream of the impermanence. So this is not about the reflecting on the object. This is mind-only school things. Every consciousness with object, like eye consciousness with color, the air consciousness with sound, tongue consciousness with taste. Each consciousness, whenever it's, experience the object, and there's another consciousness with that, consciousness, which is only experiencing, aware about this subject itself. The Manur school thinks that when there's eye consciousness, the apprehends the color. There's another consciousness which apprehends the eye consciousness itself, not the color. So, and why the mind-only school, why they want to say that? Because this is when your eye consciousness apprehends the color, and you remember, the color that repeatedly you experience, you say, "Oh, I have seen that before." So, which means, eye consciousness apprehend that color, and the second time you apprehend that color, then you say, "I remember." So for remember, it has to be, remembers the prior to the remembering, there must be subject precede. In the earlier time, it has precede that same object. So now the question is, when you remember the color, you also remember your experience of the color. Now, when you remember the experiencing of the color, then which subject that has preceded the experiencing the experience? Which subject has, prior to that, which subject with consciousness, with experience only that experience? So then there's self-cognitions. Each consciousness has its own self-cognitions. Consciousness has another consciousness that is cognizing the consciousness.
It sort of sounds like you're saying there's a commentary that's going on, I remember. But the moment, even if it's a flow, green pops in the ear. You may see green, I guess, without commenting on it. But it almost sounds like we're talking about a labeling process. And as long as, isn't there always some kind of subtle, even if we're not consciously aware of it, a labeling process going on?
Let me say that again. Mind-only school thinks that anything that you remember, you have perceived that previously. Without perceiving that previously, you cannot remember. Right? The color that's, I have seen that color, means there is the prior to that, there's the I consciousness, have experienced that object. So therefore you say, I remember this. So now you also remember, not only remembering the color, you also remember experience of the color. And now, which consciousness that perceived the experiencing of the consciousness? The consciousness by itself is not going to experience the consciousness itself. So then the minority school says, oh, there is like a double consciousness. One side of consciousness perceive the object. The third, the consciousness, another layer that experience only that consciousness, that I consciousness experienced by the self-cognition of the I consciousness. So I consciousness, the two layers, the first I consciousness is perceiving only the color, and the self-cognition, which is with I consciousness, which experience only the I consciousness. So this is why when you remember the color, you also remember you have experiencing of the color. So that's the minority school things. Therefore, this is self-cognitions. Without self-cognitions, and there is no way you can remember the subject. Yes, you can remember the object. Without the self-cognitions, you cannot remember the subject. Right.
You're saying, okay, so with that last statement you said, you can remember the object without remembering the subject. But I mean, aren't we always doing that? I mean, someone hits our button, we react to something, there's kind of a subtle habit. That seems to me the reflect of the continuity. There is a continuity. Without that, it would seem there's no karma. There has to be some level of habit and recognition that causes people, like, they get upset. We don't generally, we're not aware of our habits, but we react, we get angry at something because this person reminds us of someone else.
I think you keep kind of questioning on the word reflexive. So you're saying, when I'm thinking about the time, right? Oh, it's the 1 minute ago, or 2 minutes ago, or 3 minutes ago. So my reflecting on the stream of the time, the minutes. So this is what in minority school, they don't think this is the reflexive awareness. So the word reflexive awareness is used in this translations, which means the minority school and what they are trying to, constitute the self-cognition, cognition of the subject, the consciousness only. There is another consciousness with cognizing the consciousness only, not the object. So the reason the minority school saying that is because you remember the object, which means you have perceived that object. Therefore, when you repeatedly perceiving one object again, and then that's called remember, right?
Sorry, the self-concept.
Self-cognition.
Cognition is perceiving the experience of the subject, but not the object.
So that's it. Yeah, for example, there's I consciousness. So I consciousness is perceiving this color. I consciousness perceiving the color. So there's another layer of consciousness, behind that eye consciousness, which is only watching the eye consciousness only. So not the color. So this is Mindfulness school thinks that this is their kind of idea. So color, eye consciousness, and self-cognition of the eye consciousness. The three stack, the three storage. So the color, eye consciousness, and eye consciousness cognizer. So then the Mindfulness, when we ask, what is your point? There's a color and there's eye consciousness. There's another layer of the consciousness cognizing only eye consciousness, not the color. And then when we say, what do you mean by that? What you're trying to prove? And they says, oh, the color that you have earlier perceived, then the second time you perceive that object, then you say, oh, I remember that. I have seen that. Now, when you remember the object the second time, which means you have perceived earlier. You have perceived that color earlier.
So is it more like recognizing?
Yeah, recognizing, yeah. So now the thing is, because you have perceived that, now the second time you are perceiving it, therefore you say, oh, I have seen that. And then at the same time, you remember, I have seen that. You also remembered your experience. An earlier time, you remember your experience. I have ate that. I have seen that. I have touched that. So you also remember the subject and the subject part. So without perceptions of that particular subject that is gone in the past time, and how can you remember? So then that's why they're talking about self-cognizing of the consciousness. Consciousness with two layers, one with objects, another layer cognizing the consciousness only. So the Prasangika school rejecting this kind of, the idea, self-cognizing. So when you remember the color, and at the same time, because of the remembering of the color, you remember your experience. You don't need another subject that experiencing the subject in order to make you remember the experience. So, and then Prasangika also says, sometime, and we also say, like, for example, when you go to the restaurant, you ate something, and you at the time you are eating, you don't realize, there's any problem with food. And then once you finish eating, going back to home, and then there's some kind of problems in your stomach. Then you say, oh, that because of the restaurant, I ate that food. That food must have, some problem at the time. So you haven't really realized there's a problem while you are eating. So without realizing the problem with food earlier, but, when you come back to home, you remember the food has a problem. So this is many, many times, right? Oh, now I remember that was happened in that time. Does that mean you have earlier realized there's realizations precede earlier? No. So sometimes, when you read the comment, when you read the book, by one statement, and the first time, third time, there's no significant, realizations, anything. And the fourth time when you read it, and then that gives you some kind of realizations. So then you say, oh, that means that. That's also memory, remembering. So Prasangika schools, to remember, you don't have to realize that very thing that remember that has already perceived earlier. So then the question is, does that mean everything that you're perceiving is remembering? No. Remember is the base on something repeatedly experiencing, and with that you can remember others. So in the guide to the Bodhisattvas, the Shantidevas used the, like a bear, hibernating while he's hibernating, and he was, bit by the mouse. So at the time when he was sleeping, he experienced that he got bit. At that time, there is no awareness of the poisoning. And then after the winter, and when he awake and he got, he experienced some kind of thing, then there was poison at that time when he was bit. Right. So minority school, the Prasangika school thinks that's that is a little bit too much. It's total exaggerations. Self-cognitions is exaggerations. Subject you remember with object.
Can we apply this that you say bear is hibernated? So it's almost like a bear is not even aware, consciously aware or something. I don't know what is hibernated, what in relation to the consciousness. But I associate with like my own experience. Like I'm awake and alert, but bitten by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And I know I was bitten by mosquitoes, but I wasn't aware of my body's reaction to that poison until a couple hours later, it started to itching, started to get red.
Yeah.
Then I said, oh, I remember that was by that mosquito bite.
Yes.
So that's applied to our also really consciousness, awareness. It's not necessarily hibernated. I don't know what is hibernated means.
Yeah. Shantideva must have talked by bear hair. Said, I was poisoned, Mr. Shantideva. So when I was hibernating, mouse can. This is what Shantideva says. In his guide to the Bodhisattvas, used the example, the bear hibernating, bit, and he experienced that, the bite. He experienced, but he could not. At the time, he could not realize there has a poison. So same thing, eating in the restaurant, you don't find any problems, and then you come back in a few hours, and sometimes you go to doctors, and maybe doctor says, have you ate something? And then you says, oh, I ate this. Oh, this allergic to you, so that's why you have problems. Or that food has, the spoiled or some kind of, there's some problems. Or you have allergies. Then you remember saying, oh, that what happened at the time. So the memory is repeatedly object. With memory is not necessarily anything that you remember with that you have perceived earlier.
But doesn't that happen? I mean, don't we do that? I mean, we got sick and then we reflect. We reflect. What did I do that could have made me? I mean, don't we actually do that? What could I have done or eaten or touched that made me sick? And then the light goes on. Oh, maybe it was that food I ate.
Yeah.
I mean, that actually happens.
Yeah, this is very simple. It's not really profound. So here my Prasangika school, the rejections, what they're refuting is self-cognitions of the consciousness. So Prasangika school said there is no need self-cognition of the consciousness to remember the consciousness. So when you remember the object, you also remember, the consciousness. Subject remember with object. So because of the object that you remember the subject, right? So you don't need another subject to realize or to perceive that very subject. So that's very simple.
Okay, I'm overcomplicating it.
Yeah, you are just Larry is just you are trying to untangle the reflexive awareness. Reflexive awareness. This the translator who used this reflexive awareness, and he also remembered that. And many times that many of the translators use self-cognitions of the consciousness. So now here, this particular translator used the self-reflexiveness awareness. The reflexive, if the reflexive awareness means, consciousness and the object is a reflect, and then yes, this reflectiveness, the reflective awareness is there. The every consciousness, and the eye consciousness, eye consciousness perceive the color is the reflect, something reflect on the eye sense power, that the eye consciousness and awareness of that reflective.
So
right?
reflexive awareness.
It's not the problem with the reflexive awareness. It is the problem with the meaning.
It should be self-cognition, right? I mean,
So reflective awareness is named to the self-cognizations. It is named, So you can say, you can give the name Sangye. Sangye means Buddha. So then you keep questioning, is he Buddha? Is he know everything? Has he abandoned all the afflictive emotions? No. So he was just named as Sangye.
You could cross off reflexive awareness and just use self-cognition, right?
Yeah, actually it is self-cognition of the consciousness. So there's the second layer of the consciousness that, experience only the consciousness part. So the Prasangika school says that is totally nonsense. It is totally nonsense because there is no need for the self-cognitions for the consciousness only. The reason minority school, insisting there is self-cognitions is because I remember not only the color, I remember also I have seen that, I've experienced that. So what subject that perceived earlier the experience, because I'm remembering the experience. So Prasangika school, you remember the object, therefore you remember the subject. You things that you touched, and you remember that what you have touched, and also or you remember how the touch the touching, the experience of the touch. You remember experience the touch is remember with object that you touched. So you don't need, by remembering. You're remembering the mantra, with that you remember the meaning of the mantra, right? So you don't need, while you are repeating that mantra, the first time you heard that mantra, you have the realization of the meaning of the mantra. Mantra, they keep repeating, reciting, then you remember the meanings, right? So the meaning remember with mantra. So the Prasangic school, refute that the self-cognition of the consciousness, and then number two, rejecting the use of the autonomous syllogism to engender the view of suchness in others. So here, all the school they thinks to to help other people to realize the emptiness, and you have to use the syllogism or the consequentialist reasoning for to other people to understand. So the syllogism that you use, you cannot use the autonomous syllogism. Autonomous syllogisms. If you when you trying to deliver the meaning, right? When you try to explain the emptiness, you've been trying to help others to realize the emptiness, saying that the self of the person is not inherently exists because it is a dependent rising. So in my mind, when I used this syllogism, this person is not intrinsically exists because it's dependent arising. So in my mind, if I in my mind think, oh, the self of the person is ultimately, it is intrinsically or inherent in the consciousness. If I have this kind of mind, the self is inherent in the consciousness or the mental consciousness or the mind basis of all. So this syllogism is not going to help me to realize the emptiness. So similarly, if other person that you're trying to help him to understand, and that in this person still in their mind very strongly believe that the dependent arising means just born from the cosmic condition, and this is nothing to do with relativities. If other people in his mind, dependent arising has one meaning, is depending on cosmic conditions. Like East and West not dependent rising. Because East not born from West, West not born from East. So the dependent rising for him is depending on cosmic conditions. So that person, how many times he think because the dependent rising must not be inherent exist, this is not going to help him to gain the realization emptiness. So to individual who reveal the self as an absence of intrinsic natures, he has to understand that every part, every dependent arising means for him not only cosmic conditions. Dependent arising means it relatively exists in a very subtle level, like tall, arises but depending on short arising and dependent upon tall, and east arising dependent upon west dependent arising, and dependent arising from the east, and then the and then the favorable is arises depending upon unfavorable arises depending on favorable. So this kind of understanding dependent arising, when he used this concept of dependent arising, and then he can he can constitute the self as an absence of intrinsic existence. Otherwise, the reason that you use, there's some kind of intrinsic quality. Any intrinsic quality, intrinsic nature cannot empty intrinsic nature on self or any other thing. So the Prasangika school said that, rejecting the use of the autonomous syllogism to engender of the view of suchness in others. So when the person teaches the emptiness to others, the teacher who still thinks, the whole syllogism, subject, predicate, has some kind of intrinsic quality, so he has no ability to help, realize the emptiness of others. If other person still hold an intrinsic quality, and each subject in the reason and predicate or intrinsically exist, and this person, like how many times the teacher explained, he will block all the so there is no effect. There's no effect from the teacher, because he has, he has put himself in the what do you call? There's the wall, the gap, or kind of he put himself in the different what do you call? Yeah, you shield yourself. So how many teacher throws the reasoning and you shield yourself because you says, the everything that I see is, must be. There's some kind of inherent nature, intrinsic nature. So like how many times you talk to the deaf person, deaf could not say anything. There's no reactions. So like he shields himself. So the both, teacher and the disciple, or in debate court we call chigu the nagu, the defender and the offender. The when they debate, so the both are open mind, both are very flexible, and only they relying on the reasoning, and then defender and offender, the debate, and they come to the understand there's the common in the common knowledge they can share. If the defender or offenders shield each other, this is our one, this is my point of view, and this is your point of view, and they can only debate hours and months and years, and maybe at the end there's a physical fighting maybe. So so one may throw a punch.
At the end, this says thus 3 rejections. This is rejecting the intrinsic subject predicate.
Yes, that's 3 rejections: subject, predicate, and the reasonings. So the medieval autonomous schools, mind-only school, Sautrantika school, Vaibhashika school, even non-Buddhist school. So they're all kind of very strong belief in intrinsic nature. So even the Sautrantika school, and they says the product in impermanence, the relations of the product in impermanence is intrinsically unshakable indestructible relationships. The relation is, intrinsic and absolute. So that kind of thinking, yeah. So Dantic school, so impermanent products is, like, the cause and the conditions, which produce, something. The cause and the condition produce something means there's the intrinsic cause and the conditions producing the intrinsic effect. So that's how they, strongly believe. Just by saying the product is produced from the cause and the condition. What has produced effect that intrinsically exists, which is produced. What has produced, what has produced, and the cause the conditions that is intrinsically exists are the cause that produce the effect intrinsically existing. So then, because of the cause and conditions which is intrinsically exists, which produce the effect, that effect is instantly changing, impermanent. That is true, is intrinsically exist. So then the relations of the product and impermanence is unshakable, indestructible, is the absolute. So they think the separations of the product and impermanence is intrinsic. So I think, you see Buddha in the first turning wheel of the Dharma, with the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths. First is impermanent, and then the conditional suffering, and then impure. So there's a Sothantika school, minority school, they think impermanence. First, Buddha says the body is impermanent, and then Buddha says is the conditional suffering. So the impermanent and the conditional suffering. So they don't see this impermanent is the conditional suffering. Because of the impermanent and that impermanence, the change that force, from the karma and afflictions is the conditioned suffering. So there's the impermanent, the first impermanent in general. And that after that impermanent is, karma and afflictive emotion, the force of the karma and afflictive emotions, which is changing, is conditional suffering. So there's a kind of, so impermanent and the conditional suffering is something, there's a different. In the Prasangika school, when they contemplate impermanent and conditional suffering, just is verbally, the impermanent conditional suffering is just verbally is separate, just by name. So impermanent is the conditioned suffering is the impermanent. Impermanence of the body is the conditional suffering. So there is no order. Impermanent and conditional suffering has no order. And then impermanent and dependent arising, again, there is no true meaning. As they conventionally, from ordinary people, ordinary perceptions, the way they perceive impermanence, where they perceive dependent arising is the two different things. Because from the ordinary perceptions, ordinarily perceiving impermanent and the conditioned suffering is a two different thing. So even actually, Buddha's teachings, if who take from the Buddha's Four Noble Truths teaching would take that, impermanent and the conditioned suffering is the two different things. So the different of the impermanent conditioned suffering is life. There is no order. There's no two different meaning. So for the Sutantaka school, in Mainoni school, in the Babashika school, when there is no two different impermanent and conditioned suffering, then you don't understand the 16 attributes. Because there's no 16, everything is one.
Well, even if impermanent, granted, impermanence and conditional suffering are the same, doesn't that kind of imply impermanence itself, what do you call it, conditional suffering or impermanence? Can't you argue that impermanence itself is inherent? It's inherent in the condition of all phenomena, is impermanence, meaning it's all pervasive. There's no such thing as something that's not impermanent. So if there's no such thing, nothing you can point to that's not impermanent. Can't you say that state, it's kind of paradoxical? Can't you say, impermanent itself is inherent? It's inherent in the condition of all phenomena.
I don't understand.
Impermanence, the absent of
Inherent means there's no conditions, it doesn't exist. You say something inherently exists, you're saying that object always exists and it's unchanging, right? Isn't that the meaning of inherent? Meaning unchanging.
Uh-huh.
And impermanent itself
Changing.
is unchanging because it's always impermanent. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's kind of paradoxical in a way.
Wow, that's really good. The food is always never eat because food is always eat. How many times you eat, the food is there. So it's kind of like the dinner is no one has eat the dinners. How many times you eat, dinner is still there. So
Maybe I'm in permanent hibernation and I'll never wake up.
So there is the non-spoilable breakfast and the dinners. How many times you eat, the dinner is still there. Yeah.
I've been assured that I'll wake up. I've gotten that insurance,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem like it.
So the morning must be impermanent, Every time you wake up, there's morning. All morning is always there. every after night, there's always morning. So morning must be permanent, This. So, I think, the impermanence, the changing, the nature. This is what called the nature of the impermanence is keep changing. So this is why they call nature. The heat, the fire has the nature of heat. the wind has the nature of motion. The water has nature of, moisture. And the earth has the nature of the solidity. So yeah. So so even in impermanence is very the coarse perceptions. So the impermanence means the I don't know how to say. The perceptions which understand the impermanence is looking at the phenomena and not very fine. It's very kind of, roughly measuring. Is the impermanence is the measure through the measurement. The measurement is just roughly measurement, like 60 seconds as a minute, 60 minutes as an hour. So roughly measuring the time, because the ultimately, so you cannot really, you cannot really measure the absolutely, you cannot measure the time, because the time means is, I think I told you that in Hindi languages, they call time as a cow. And they also call yesterday is the cow. When you use in the sentence, because the past tense, that from the sentence we understand you're talking about the past. You're talking about the futures. The name of the future and the past is same, Gal. And then they also use the name of death is the cow. So why this is? So this has very kind of profound meaning beyond that, because this is time means exhausting. It's exhausting, passing. So there is nothing you can hold on, anything that is passing. So the kal means is exhausting, passing. Tomorrow is also passing. Today is the passing. Death is past. So passing, past. So that's there's nothing you can hold on anytime. But but you can made up in your mind. Oh, I'm going to call 60 seconds as a minute, and that measures. I said 60 minutes of that is the hours. So this is all in my thought, projecting the hour and the minute. And ultimately, when you go to the time, there is nothing remaining. There's nothing you can hold on in any time. The time is passing. Like you cannot stand on the river, right? So the water keep flowing, right? So there is nothing you can hold on. Time ultimately is that. But conceptually, the humanly we measured, the humanly thinking that, oh, I'm going to call it hour, I'm going to call it a minute, I'm going to call it a day, I'm going to call it a week, month, year. So then when you're going to call it, and you can also make it to you, and the month is the present, day is the present, hour is the present, minute is the present. Because when you make for yourself, you can make them standing still for yourself. So that is called conventionally, very roughly projecting the time, which is just conceptually. So conceptually, you can make a time. You can conceptually hold the time. So ultimately, there is no time that you can hold on. So therefore, the impermanence has no quality of intrinsic, no basis to hold, no basis to remain, no basis to stand. Like concept of is has no basis to stand. There is no is standing on anything, not on the land, not on the house, not on the tree, not on the mountain. There is no west that is landing or, located in somewhere, someplace, something that's solid. So because we project that, and we can make it existing. This direction is there, that direction the west is there. So if I move to the east, then I'm going to make, where I sit right now, I can make is west, or I can also make it east. If I move this way, I can make this east. If I move there, I can make this west.
See, that's what Bill Clinton said when he was asked, "Did you have sex with that lady?" And he said, "That depends on what the meaning of is."
Yeah.
Because there's no is.
Maybe there's no his. There's no his, there's no it is. It's never happened because he's not there.
So impermanence is a projection, right? We project impermanence or permanence. So that's a reason why it's not inherent in the object.
So impermanence cannot be inherent because this is for the Prasangika school perspective, right? Prasangika school thinks that when you say impermanence, so impermanence means uncertainty, not certainty. Not certainty means not standing, not remaining. So how can you find it is inherent in somewhere, something that is not standing still? So in the Manipur school, the Sutatik school, they have a different story. So impermanence is table is impermanent. Table is the product. So the impermanence of the table is in the table. So there this is. It can locate within the table. It is inherent in the table. Because you make tables impermanent or impermanence of the table. Now you use the greenness of the leaf. Do you also see the greenness of the leaf is in the leaf? Leaf is holding the greenness. So you're still talking your projection. There's no substantially, there's no leaf holding the greenness. Because the leaf is green, the greenness of the leaf is no other than the leaf. But you can't make up in your mind that the leaf and it's green. So similarly, you can say the size of the hat. This is my hat, and there is the size which is in my hat, or with my hat. My size of the hat is inherent in the hat. So you are just conceiving something in your projections. First, you project my hat and the size, and you can project space and it's empty. There's the two things, space and it's empty. Now space holds the empty. So if you think space is holding the empty, so do you really think space can sometimes lose its empty and then it's become full? So space is no different from the empty. Empty is no different from the space. That's why anytime you want, empty, so you say, can you please give me space? Or can you move these things? I need space to move. Or is the table holding your space? No. Table, by moving it, you have space to move. So, which the Prasangika school says, the dependent arisings, if you don't understand the dependent arising relatively existing, relativity is the dependent arising. Relativity means nothing inherent, but you can make things, you can possess the different entities with eye consciousness. Like for the bread, we can say the color of the bread with relation to the eye consciousness, the color of the bread. With nose consciousness, the smell of the bread. With tongue consciousness, the taste of the bread. So with that, so what you have projected in your mind, the bread is the one that have color, sound, smell, taste, textures. Is it really true? The bread that is substantially exists, it possessing the color, smell, taste, tactilities. So does bread inherently possessing color, smell, taste, tactilities? So when we examine, there is no such color of the bread independent from the eye sense power. There is no such smell of the bread independent from the nose sense power. If there is no smell of the bread independent from the nose sense power, how can there is the substantial bread that intrinsically, possessing the smell, taste, the tactilities? So so number 3, the rejecting the autonomous syllogism to the engender of the view of the suchness in others. So in the ayah there was true, the ayah there was says that Nyambabo the Nyanjadans, Mobunjung Shindukus. Ayah there was in the 400 stanzas says. So I don't see end of the samsara. I don't see every sentient beings, being liberated. So I don't see the possible of sentient beings, free from all sentient beings, free from samsara. And the reason he says, first, the listener is very rare to who can be able to listen carefully about the reality of the suchness. That is almost, it's very rare. And what you listen, that the dependent arising, is not really easy to, have the access to be able to study. And then the third is, there's the very rare who can explain, accurately the dependent arising. So these are the reasons I don't see every sentient beings, can free from samsara. But that does not mean he also believes sentient beings have the potential to be free from samsara. So to be able to, follow the logic in the reasonings is really easy, and the logic in the reason, precisely, informed to you is not really easy. So even the minority school, these are the great, followers of the Buddha. So even they have this difficulty to understand the very subtle dependent arising. They are afraid of accepting it. They fear the dependent, the interdependencies in the sense of the relativities. So they fear because this may lead you to nihilism. This way may destroy my whole faith and the belief in the law and cause and effect. So minor school are afraid. Sudanic school are afraid. So we are the brave. We don't afraid. so we are the very, very encouraging person. Whatever, just let it come to us. So middle autonomous schools, like, Chandrakirti, Baba Vivek, so they're always kind of reserved, they're not really easy to kind of, they don't seem to rely on what the Nagarjuna is literally explaining. So they always try to interpret the meaning of the Nagarjuna's text, because they also think that if I go literally with Nagarjuna, I may fall in nihilism, So number 4 is accepting the external realities, the existence to the same extent as one accept the existing of the consciousness. So the equally subject and objects. When there's the external form, there is consciousness, I consciousness, engaging in external objects. I consciousness and the externals are equally conventional exists, equally, the empty and intrinsic natures. So these are the unique in the Prasangika school. The form and I consciousness equally conventionally exist, equally empty in intrinsic existence. So number 5 is accepting that even Charvakas, the Pratika Buddhas, realize the selflessness of phenomena. So the Prasangika school also thinks that every arhat must have, abandoned all the afflictive emotions. Therefore, each arhat must have completely and totally understood the emptiness of the inherent existence. So other schools, they don't accept that, So number 6, accepting the grasping at the self-existing existence of the phenomena is a form of afflictions. So the grasping the self of person as an existence, the grasping the self of phenomena as intrinsic existence are the in Prasangika school, they both are afflictions.
Yes, I'm not quite clear on I thought that's okay. Something's not quite connecting on 5. I thought, I'm thinking of arhats. I don't know about Sravakas and Pratyeka Buddhism. I don't know if it's the same as arhats or not, but I thought arhats accept the selflessness, the emptiness of self, but not the emptiness of phenomena. Is that correct?
Yeah,
They
that's
accept only one of those things.
yes. Other than the Prasangika school, they all believe in that.
Now, what is is there a difference between Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas from arhats? Are they the same? They only accept the emptiness of self, but not phenomena. Is there a difference in that view between arhats and, say, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas?
So other than the Prasangika school, they think the obscurations, there's two obscurations of some liberation, obscuration for the liberation, and obscuration for the phenomena. So they divided. The afflictive emotion means obscuration for the liberation. So Arhat, the Pratyeka Buddha and the Sharvakas, they attained Arhat. So while they are in the path, so they always kind of focus on the abandoning obscuration of the liberation. They do not have any interest to overcoming the obscuration of the phenomena. So to become the Arhat, you only abandon the obscuration of Arhat, the obscuration of the liberation. So what is the obscuration of liberation is, this is the root of that obscuration of liberation is the grasping of self as a self-sufficient, self as a self-sufficient I, self-sufficient I is the obscuration of the liberation. So to attain Arhat, you only need abandon that. And you don't need to gain the realization of the emptiness of the phenomena. So the grasping of this phenomena as a, truly existing, and they call is the obscuration of the phenomena. So in order for overcoming the obscuration of the phenomena, it requires that you need to accumulate 1 eons of the merit, or 2 eons of the merit, or 3 eons of the merit. So without the strength of the merit, the collection of the merit of the eons, and there's no way you can abandon the obscuration of the phenomena. So which means to become the Buddha, you have to accumulate the 1 year, the 2 year, the 3 years of the merit. Now, Prasangika schools, this is the totally different. Prasangika school says the grasping of self, a person, or the phenomena intrinsically is afflictions, is not the obscuration of the phenomena. The obscuration of the phenomena, which means the Prasangika school, obscuration is something obscure you to perceive things as it is the obscuration of phenomena. So as it is means, when there's the story during the Dhammapadas, and the story that says, they compared the Arhat knowledge and the Buddhist knowledge. So they said the example, when there is the, chariot, the wheel of the chariot. So it's there's the chariot, wheel of the chariot, lying on the ground. So the Arhat, when you look at it, they see the chariots and whatever the underneath the chariots, the insects, So this much on the surface they can see. How many insects underneath that? So from the Buddha's knowledge, when he sees, whole, under that how many sentient beings, how many times it's gone. Each tiny particles, whole histories with the seeds. So that means, he has abandoned the obscuration of the phenomena. So nothing obscured him, nothing have him not understand.
This is to become omniscient.
So they become omniscient. So here the obscuration of the liberation, obscuration of the phenomena. So without being Buddha, you have, without being Buddha, you always have the obscuration of the phenomena. Even the Arhat have the obscuration. Like Shariputra could not see the one individual person's, the seed of the liberations. And then Mongol Buddha could not see his mother where she has born. So Mongol Buddha is Arhat. But he always trying to see through his clairvoyance where his mother has born. So sometimes the place where she born is too far that he could not reach his clairvoyance. Or sometimes the sentient beings that physically the too subtle that Arhat could not really see it. Or sometimes Arhat could not recall the time as too long ago. So if, for example, if Arhat can remember 5 lives or 10 lives, so if something that has been 100 lives, then Arhat could not recall that. So the time is too long, or things that are too subtle, and the place is too far. So that is become the obscuration for the Arhat. So obscuration of the phenomena, obscuration of the liberations too. So other than the Prasangika school says, Arhat only need to abandon the obscuration of the phenomena. So the obscuration of the phenomena means the grasping itself as a self-sufficient. So that is the obscuration of the phenomena, as self-obscuration liberations. So, in order to abandon the obscuration of the phenomena, you have to, like Buddha, many lives, the cultivated merits. So within one life, you cannot have this kind of qualities. So the Prasangika school says the obscuration phenomena is not the misconceptions. Obscuration phenomena is the habit, the latency, the imprints. It is the stain of the afflictive emotions. It's not about any misconception or the perception. Anything that is a perception that is wrongly perceiving is, afflictions. So the Prasangika school, they're grasping a self person as intrinsically existing, grasping a self phenomena as intrinsically existing, equally afflictions. So all the Arhat must have abandoned the grasping a self person and phenomena as intrinsically existence. So their definitions, the obscuration, the phenomena is in the Prasangika school is different. Something obscured means there's no emotionally, mistakenly apprehending something. There's some kind of, stain. There's some kind of, the how's that? What do you call it? The imprints of the latency, right? Latency, or some kind of habit, or some kind of, blocking your mind. You could not see things clearly, is the obscuration of the phenomena. So there's accepting even the Sarvaka and the Pratika Buddhas realize the selflessness of the phenomenon. Number 7, accepting the disintegration of the things as a conditioned things, disintegrations, anything, any kind of things that has passed. The past of that thing, as the Prasangika school, is not a non-existing. It is a conditional thing. Like a dead person. Death is conditional. It is past and it is a condition. It is existing. So for the other than Prasangika school, death means died. Means the person has no longer existing. Non-existing of the person. Anything that is past means, non-existing of that thing. The Prasangika school, it is not a non-existing. It is the conditional things. I think I said that because the death is not the non-existing, it is a condition. Death is conditioned by, can be conditioned by age, can be conditioned by illness, can be conditioned by anything. So without the anything that is perceived as a cause, death is not going to happen. Right. So the end of the Sunday is conditioned by things that are happening in the Sunday. The hour of the Sunday is conditioning the end of the Sunday. So every 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, all these hours is consuming the Sunday. So at conditioning the death of the Sunday. So the death of the Sunday, the past of the Sunday, is a conditional thing. It is a thing. It is not a non-thing. So in the Prasangika school. So other than Prasangika school says, end of the Sunday, past of the Sunday, death of the Sunday, all non-existent. So the Prasangika school thinks, existing and non-existing, existing. So there's a Prasangika school, existing of the Sunday or non-existing of the Sunday. So non-existing of the Sunday. Sunday as not exist. When the Sunday ends, Sunday is not exist as a Sunday, is, non-existing of the Sunday, but still a thing. Because the Sunday is whole, the Sunday as a whole, Sunday as a whole day, is depending upon many, non-existing of the hour. So Sunday as a whole is depending on, Sunday exists depending upon from the morning, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, all are non-existing. So past of those 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning are the basis for the Sunday to exist. And right now is 4, and at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and the coming of those hours are also basis for the Sunday to exist. If all the future is non-existing, the past not exist, how can Sunday exist as a whole day? Sunday is depending on many things that is past, many things is to be coming. Otherwise, there is no Sunday as a whole day. So the Prasangika school says the past is existing, future is existing. So past and the future, based on the past of the hour of the Sunday, future of the hour of the Sunday are the basis for the Sunday to be present. So that proves the past of the Sunday, the past of the many hours of the Sunday are not a non-existing. Sunday cannot be a present based on non-existent.
Sunday is not a Saturday is not a non-existing. It's a conditional thing, right?
Yeah. Saturday is a conditional thing.
It's past.
Yeah. Saturday is past. Saturday is past from the Sunday. Saturday is past in Sunday. Past from the Sunday is Saturday is past. So Saturday is past. Therefore, if you think Saturday is non-existing, so then
It's still functioning. Or
because
an effect.
yeah. So you see here, all these things that has passed become non-existing. All the action that you've done in the past become non-existing. All the karma become non-existing. Today, all the virtues, the activities, the tomorrow become non-existing. Then what is the point to cultivating the mirrors? Because all become non-existing. Only money is not become non-existing. So you save today, tomorrow. So all the time yourself has become non-existing. So I think
Saturday exists conceptually. I mean, because even Sunday is existing.
Generally.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, most of Sundays is conceptual now, but Mondays, the future is Monday is conceptual.
Yeah, it's conceptual, therefore it exists. Yeah, it exists. So for the Tibetan, we say King Chandrakirti, is it existing or non-existing? It's existing. Chandrakirti exists. Chandrakirti exists. Otherwise, whole the chain of the Tibetan history become non-existing. Right? Everything in the past became non-existent. Whole history has become non-existing. Whole the future that you're trying to kind of make that happen all become non-existing. How can you make things non-existent be existing? The farmers are going after non-existent. Businessmen are going after non-existence. All the students are going after non-existence. So then, yeah.
Geshe, it seems from something I read in the Sakya book that the idea of existing in Tibetan culture is very different than Western culture. That is to say, according to someone I read, a scholar, there was no idea of history as we think of it in the West. That in fact, Tibetan history is mixed with all kinds of mythology and miracles, and I mean all kinds of. It doesn't exist in the same way it exists in the West. So it seems even the idea of existence is quite different.
that is about actual happen or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about actually happen or not. Is history that is not actually happen, but that with traditionally, so we believe that happened. So that like a dream smell, dream elephant, it is not the actual, but it is existence. So actual and non-actual, and existing and non-existing. It's two different things. Yeah. So that's the story. That's something that you make up in your mind. So still, like a scientist, they think evolutions. So beginning from the chimpanzee or the gorillas. So that kinds of speculations. This is kind of debatable. Even that happened. Now, so there's some maybe not actually happening, but they assume or speculate that happens. But the action, the karma that you have done, committed in yesterday is not a non-existing action that is going to be performed tomorrow. Sun's going to rise tomorrow is not a non-existence. So right now I'm talking about reality. I'm not talking about the humanly, the traditionally projections. So we are not talking about human traditional projections or the culturally projections. I'm talking about the actual things that had happened and become past. So the past of that thing had born once, now it passed. The past of that thing is existing. It is the time. Thing that has passed is the time. Things that is yet to be born is still a time. Things that is the continuing is the time. So that's the thing that you're mentioning is is another story. It's a different subject. So sometime the Hindu tradition, the very ancient Hindu tradition, right? Tradition, or so they have the belief that is the whole kind of idea of how this planet happened. So they think the earth is from the Vishnu's, the air, dust. So this whole earth is coming from Vishnu's, the air. He was sleeping for years and years, and then the dust that collect in his air, and from there, and two person comes. So, and this two person are trying to, coming to fight with Vishnu, and Vishnu defeat him and kill these two person, and then they become the land. So, the earth is from the Vishnu's, the air, how's the dust? Air wax, yeah. So this kind of this is the cultural projections. Tibetan things that we are all coming from monkeys. So the first monkey was reincarnation, Avalokiteshvara. So another monkey is from the Tara. So from Tara and Avalokiteshvara, the whole Tibetan people comes. So still, so we are from monkey, and essentially we are from Avalokiteshvara and Tara. So it's up to you. It's all freedom. How many times, in what way you want to project, you can project. There is no restrictions. Some people think first human beings coming from the God realm. So some of the peoples, the God beings, are very naughty. They drop in the land, and so they have no they only have mouth. There's no hole, to poop because they don't need to eat. So one person has taste the land. There's some kind of wax or some, the and he finds it's very tasty, and he keep eating, and then it become whole. So then that human becomes human race. So then he start eating, and he want to eat more, and he start, growing corns, and everybody growing corns, and then they fight. They start stealing, and steals others, and then they says, "Oh, now we need law to, my land and your land. So we have to come up one person to be king, and he will kind of, set the rules." So the first king comes. So, and for that king is also pay salary. So from my land, I will give, maybe 2 kg or 4 kg for the king, and the other family, and then other family. So his duty is to be, how's that? To rule, to follow the rules. So punish the bad, the bad guy, is to reward the good guy. So the first king, he thinks is like policeman. He has no kind of sense of pride because he got it. This is his duty, his job. He's the employee. Then the king's son comes. The king thinks, "Oh, this is very good. So I'm going to make my son to be the king." So they got really addicted, and then they fight for the throne, So that's, some people think that, employee become employer. So in the Prasangika school, says the existing and non-existing, the entity or non-entities. Entity means while it's in the present. Non-entity means while that very entity being past. So the both entity and non-entity is existing. So whatever that, so the past of the Saturday is existing, now that does not mean Saturday exists in the past of the Saturday. So past of the Saturday exists does not mean Saturday still exists. The death of that person exists means this happened. That does not mean one who died is coming back and alive. One who died is not exist. The death of him is exist. So therefore, there is continuum of him. The continuum of that proves what has died, what has ceased, is proving that to be existing. Like when the barley seed ceased, barley sprout manifests. So the barley sprouts, the erosion of the barley sprout is a proof of the barley seed has died. So, and then the past of the barley seed and the erosion of the barley sprout, between there's no gap. There's no gap at all. The very moment that's, barley seed has ceased, the sprout is arise. Very moment Sunday ceased, the Monday happened. So like 2 sides of the scale, one goes up and one goes down. So if every past is continuing in this way, you don't need to bridge Atma. You don't need bridge the mind-based soul to one to the another. So things are continuing. One's past, one arises. So why do you need permanent I to continue? There is no need for the Atma. There's no need for the foundation of the consciousness. because everything that is disintegrating is connecting to the future. Okay, so she will stop here. Chanju semjo rinpoche mageba na jeju je cheba ni ba mewa ni konde konde. Tonye tawa rinpoche mageba na jeju je cheba ni ba mewa ni konde konde. Pama semjen tamjen dedan denju je nyendo tamje tado tongwa. Chanju semba kanga sushu be teta kuji molom jubjiru. Karera wekwe shingansu pendan dewa mandu jowe ne. Chere sangwa tenzin jazu ye shabe sede bandu denjuru je.
May the precious body mind not upon the right hand grow. May the bond have no decline but increase forever. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet upon the right hand grow. May the bond have no decline but increase forever. Due to all these merits, all other immortal sentient beings have all happiness. And may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Trinity Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much.